Hello and welcome to our show, Film Talk with AJ Dean. I'm AJ Dean, your host, and I have my amazing, brilliant co-host, Paul Vato, with me. Paul Vato, how are you, Paul?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me, AJ.
I just thought I would throw that in, a little bit of singing now and then just to change things up. So happy you're here, Paul. So guess what, Paul? We have an incredible and phenomenal actor in the building tonight with us, and I am so excited. We have Radford Baker. Now, he is an actor, and I want to tell you, he has been referred by our very dear friend, Kimberly Skryme, casting director. So I want to say a very special hi, hello, and thank you, Kimberly. We love you, Kimberly. Mwah, mwah, mwah. You are the very best. And I know I say that, but you really, really are. So Paul, let's give a warm welcome to Radford Baker. Hello, Radford, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's so wonderful. I've been looking forward to this, anticipating it and writing the questions down because we've got a lot of fun things to talk about. And you have so much of a fascinating background. And I want to tell Paul a little bit and our audience about you. You have been a FBI agent or have worked for the FBI. Is that correct?
I was a 30-plus year career FBI agent. I retired at the end of 2017, mandatorily retired. We're retired at age 57, whether we like it or not.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I want to give a very sincere thank you to you, Radford, for serving our country, protecting it, defending it in all the many ways that you have done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
What an honor. It's such an honor to talk to you, Radford. And you've also have extensive background as a law enforcement officer. Is that right?
Yes. Before I was an FBI agent, I was an officer with the Baltimore County, Maryland Police Department. And that's sort of the walk I walked during my career, law enforcement. I had started out with a very big interest in broadcasting, and that was back in the day when nobody would even know what a podcast was, if the word even existed. Everybody that was studying broadcasting as a major in college or, trying to do it cold, just peddling demo tapes, you physically went to AM or FM radio stations and started in what was then known, and I guess still for the true broadcast facilities that are still around, you had major markets that you strive to work in, you had minor markets that you got your start in, and especially in the radio world, I think television or traditional broadcast television is a lot like this too. You move around a lot in your quest for that brass ring. I think you may remember a sitcom of, I always say not so long ago, and then when I count the years, it's a lot longer than I thought, but WKRP in Cincinnati had a theme song, and one of the lines was town to town, up and down the dial. And that's the life of the old traditional disc jockey. You moved around a lot in your quest to get a show in a major market. And I don't know, I started that pursuit, and then I took an elective as a broadcasting major. I tried to, get more credits quickly and graduate, and I took a class in corrections as part of the criminal justice program, just to get some 3 credits for my broadcasting degree. And what an eye-opener and game changer it was for me, because I became so fascinated with criminal justice, and that really became my academic and my lifelong pursuit. But I never lost interest in mass communication and never lost interest in acting.
I love this. I love this. And what an incredible story. I wanted to ask you, how do you, that background, you must bring a tremendous amount of experience, analytical thinking, and you're able to kind of suss things out and also analyze the character and the situation. How much does that play a part in your roles that you play?
Oh, it absolutely plays a part. We live, just to go back a second, we live in a society where labels are very important. We put labels on things, we put labels on people. And a lot of times as we make career choices or academic pursuits, we don't realize the commonality that exists in a lot of things. And there are so many skills I developed as a law enforcement officer that helped me in my FBI world. And I had a slight career on Capitol Hill as a lawyer after my FBI career, where I was hired specifically because of my interviewing skills. And my interviewing skills, honestly, if I have any, I've been told that I do, but if I were to point to a reason how these were developed, certainly probably counting my police and FBI time, 35 years of talking and interviewing people. But I personally think more importantly than that, my acting experience, because acting, you learn, I think most people think of actors as people that are speaking things and saying things and doing things. But one of the most significant attributes of a good actor, and what actors are always striving to do better at, is to listen to the person they are in a scene with. And when you develop that under imaginary circumstances, i.e. acting, and you take that listening to the law enforcement scenario, sort of reverse from what people might think. They think, well, you develop this listening skill and these talking skills from policing, and you take that to acting. But I benefited most from taking the listening skills developed from acting and taking them to the law enforcement scenario and really listening to something that someone was saying to you, instead of being ready to fire off the next question or illuminate the room with your brilliance in having a next question. Listen and follow up with what the person in front of you is saying. And that's an acting skill that reverse, I took it to the law enforcement arena, and I think it paid great dividends.
Amazing, amazing. So can you give us an example?
Yes. I'll be general in the example. There's a very, because again, I talked about labels early, and I won't say who I worked for on Capitol Hill because that would label me. But we were doing a high profile investigation, and there were lawyers on both sides of the room. One's representing people that had been called to testify before investigators, and then a cadre of lawyers that were on the side of the room with the investigators. And somebody asked me why my list of pre-written questions was always so short, but they thought I had decent questions. And I said, because I don't know what they're going to say. My questions are going to be based on what they say and following up with things that we did not know. And that just always paid dividends for me. And there were things that might have gotten glossed over if you really hadn't just listened very carefully to what they were saying, rather than looking at those preformed templates of questions and just waiting to show everybody how quick you were to illuminate the light and turn on the mic and raise your hand and just show how brilliant you were because you had a nice formed question. I'd much rather be in the moment and follow up on something that was very new and very organic happening in the room. And I think that's the way good acting happens between two people.
Yes, thank you so much. I love that, Radford. And so I want to say Kimberly Skryme has an incredible casting acting class that she provides. And we put on our detective hat when we're looking at the script. So when you went to a scene or a situation like the courtroom or another type of situation, did you analyze behavior, body language, expressions, the words that they would choose? How would you start analyzing the behavior?
Yes, certainly behavior is analyzed, and there's a lot written about body language, and there's a lot written about how people choose words or whatnot. I think you just kind of, in the law enforcement setting, in the criminal arena, I think you just kind of have to sit back and watch, and again, listen. Listening is so important, and what people say and what people mean can be two entirely different things. And I think sometimes there's a hesitancy to ask for clarification what somebody means. And many times in the law enforcement arena, somebody thought somebody was saying one thing, but they really meant something else. I remember a high school teacher that told me something that it stayed with me all these years, and it's germane to acting, certainly, right to the core of Stanislavski's acting technique. And that teacher in school said, to be terrific, be specific. And that plays true if you're interrogating somebody in the law enforcement arena, interviewing somebody, or whether you are creating a character for stage, film, television, whatever. Generality is bland, and it makes for a very weak actor. It makes for a very weak performance. Be very specific. Now, you had mentioned Kimberly Skryme. I know Kimberly Skryme. I have trained with Kimberly Skryme. She's top notch. On a 5-star rating, she's going to get 10 stars every time. But she does have this and she's not only a brilliant casting director, she does occasionally teach some classes. And one of the classes that she teaches, or a cornerstone of one of her classes, as you mentioned, is this idea of being a script detective. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. You are scouring your script for clues that you can use to build a character. I reached out to Kimberly just the other day with an anecdote that happened to me just this week or end of last week with Script Detective. And I'm glad I did Script Detective techniques, because I had been called in for an audition, and they gave me the sides, the part of the script that I would be reading from or performing from. And it was a historical figure, but in general terms, relatively recent historical figure. And this figure was testifying about something before Congress. And when I was reading my sides, I made some choices, and I thought I was pretty good to go. And as I'm laying in bed, going over my lines in my head, I'm thinking, you know what? I did not read the full script a second time. I kind of glossed through it, and I said, I've got to read this thing. So I literally got up out of bed and brought the script up on my screen, and I read it again. And I don't know, somewhere in the middle of this script, the very top sentence of a page that you could have glossed over 20 times reading it, I literally dropped my jaw and said, oh my, how did I miss this clue to my character? And it totally changed my internal belief about my character. Originally, I thought he was 100% good guy, and this made me change it. Good guy overall, but not 100%. And that totally paid dividends at the callback. because I had made some different choices by the time I got there, and I was asked to read a different part of the script that was not part of the original audition materials. And I already had the benefit of seeing them, through being a script detective, but I also saw that one line in there that illuminated parts of my character that I would not otherwise have known.
This is incredible. And what a great lesson and message that you are sharing with the world. And I think that is brilliant. What do you think, Paul?
I would have to, I'm sorry, what I meant to say was, I wasn't listening. Wait, what's going on?
Well, that deserves a follow-up question. Okay.
No. There's just so many great points. And speaking from my experience, I'm a comedic actor, or at least I try to be. So I usually, if I get something, unless they're like, this is a soap opera, don't be funny, then I always assume that it is a funny script and it's comedic. But like Radford said, the importance of reading the whole script. And I'm like, if they went out of their way to send me the whole script along with my sides, which might just be a page or 2 pages, if I've been given enough time, I'll at least, I'll read it all. And it's great to see other people's work, because you're right. You can pick up one little thing that all of a sudden switches that thing, like, oh, wait, this is not exactly entirely a comedy, or, this is more dramatic. Yes, it's written by very funny people, but now they're doing this series that's dramatic. So if you are given the option to read the script, because it's going to definitely affect your character when you do the audition. And that's what, improv is based on. And I have this strong improv background, long form improv, which is listening. And that's it. It's being in the moment. It's listening. And Radford's saying some incredible things where people just sometimes want to hear themselves talk, maybe like I'm doing right now, but same with questions. It's like you've come with a long list of questions, which means that I'm not listening to you. But AJ, we are flexible on that. If that next question doesn't come up, it's not like, great, you kind of answered that question. No, it's like, let me really listen to that answer. Now, maybe that gives me another question. I think we make a great team that way, because sometimes you defer to me. I'm like, wait, I'd like to kind of delve into that, what was said there. And it's, again, same with improv. If I'm thinking of where I want the scene to go, that means I'm not listening to you, because I'm kind of, I want to do my thing. So that there is that very much that importance of listening. So thank you for sharing that, Radford.
And to be clear, I always read the complete script. I'm always amazed at the number of people in an acting class or a scene study class that do not read the whole script. They jump right to memorization, and they do that. And I was guilty of that early on in my career. It's like, well, I got to be off book for this. I'm going to be asked to not have the script in my hand. And it's a natural safety mechanism to start that memorization process soon. But when you're in the game for a little while, you learn that your time memorizing is much more efficient if you start that after you have started some of the foundational building blocks of your character and really know what your character is all about. And the script detective concept, it builds on a lot of the more traditional founding fathers of acting technique, sort of modernizing some things, but you do have to read everything, and to be terrific, be specific. Don't make bland choices. That's a Stanislavski going way back, and that's still part of the process of making an interesting character now.
Absolutely. And I do want to say Kimberly Skryme is one of the best casting directors in the world. So, and like you said, she's the very best, the top up there. And she has also been an actress, so she knows both sides, and that is incredible. So thank you again, Kimberly, and we love you. And if it's okay, Radford, I'm going to jump right in on the second screen. We've got these great movie posters Zombie and Silent Sentinel. And I chose them because they are so beautiful and interesting and fascinating. Can you share with us a little bit about each one?
I can. You picked very interesting ones because in my career, they represent very different times and very different significance of the roles. It's been said a million times before. I'll say it again because I truly believe it. And it's important because I'm not in a major market. In the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, there are some shows that come to town, some HBO things, some network television things, and that's what people think of when they think of acting. But there's so much more that an actor does in a market like this. And I was in Detroit for a while when the auto industry provides a lot of opportunities for films or whatnot. So we do a lot of short films here. We do a lot of, there's a film competition we just finished that maybe we'll have time to talk about in a little bit. But these particular films, actually, Zombinatrix is a good tie-in because the producers of Zombinatrix I met at one of these competitions called the 48-Hour Film Project. I don't know if you've heard of it, but we just finished another round of it this weekend. And dare I say, I'm nominated for Best Acting Ensemble with two incredible actresses. But an earlier edition of that, I acted with a woman and her husband was the cameraman. And I learned that she is kind of a starlet in the horror genre. And they started this film, Zombinatrix, and COVID hit. And COVID sort of put a stop to a lot of projects. The industry, more or less, certainly in the market I'm in, sort of came to a standstill, and Zombinatrix was a victim of that. There was some footage shot. It's gearing back up. I don't want to tell too much about it, but it's a zombie movie, and like all good zombies, they come back for revenge of some sort or another. And the twist on this is the reason the person comes back and the revenge that they seek to inflict on those that led to their untimely demise, we'll say. But it came from a volunteer film competition, the 48-Hour Film Project, which is probably worth a minute or two of discussing what it is, because it's a huge event. I was just told by the founder that every continent, with the exception of, I think he said Antarctica, but it might be the Arctic, that does not have a 48-hour film project. Every major city, this competition goes on, and we just had the regular edition a couple weeks ago. And what it is, you get a film team together, and at 7:30 on a Friday night in the cities where this happens, and there may be some dates that are slightly slid a little based on the city it's in, but at 7:30, the DC group met at a bar, and they drew out of a hat, I think it was a hat, a genre of film. And with the genre, everybody gets 3 items that have to be in the film, regardless of your genre. We drew revenge film, which we were all excited about drawing. And somebody else might have drawn musical for another team. Another team might have drawn Western, romantic comedy, whatever. Regardless of the genre you drew, every film has to have a common prop. The last version was a bowl. There had to be a bowl of some sort in the film. There's a common character name. There's one for male, one for female. The male character was Chad, and then if it's a female character, there was a name that would be equivalent to Chad. I don't remember what it was. And then a common line of dialogue. And this last one was, "You can quote me." Every film has to have that. Not having that will disqualify you, and not having your film turned in at 7:30 Sunday night will disqualify you too. So you literally have 48 hours to cast, write, scout locations, film, edit, and all the things that go into editing, a process called rendering that seems to be very magical and mystical to me, that the editor doesn't seem to have much control over, and they fret that they won't make it in time. And then when everything is turned in, they're spliced together to make them run about the length of a feature film. And they'll usually have 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of feature length footage to show. And it's just a fun night. They do these different showings, and then there's prizes, and it's a pyramid. You work your way up, and the ultimate winner is viewed at the Cannes Film Festival. And there's prizes that go with that, and there's prizes for the posters. And the theme behind it all is promoting filmmaking. Silent Sentinel was actually the gentleman behind that. He ties into 48-Hour Film Project too. So anybody wanting to get into film, look for the 48-Hour Film Project in your city, because they were always looking for people with the technical skills to run cameras, sound, lights, production assistant. They're looking for actors, actresses, looking for all that. And they also do, besides the annual one that just happened, sometimes they do a Halloween edition, which is a ton of fun. And then during election season for the big national elections, they'll do political short films. And they're just, I'm always amazed at the creativity that comes out of that. But the gentleman behind Silent Sentinel, he too is a finalist this Thursday. Out of all the films that were screened in the DC chapter, they weed it down to 9 or 13. And for some reason, I can't remember which one it is, but they view them again, and there'll be more judging and whatnot. So, I mean, my team's very excited about making it this far. And this gentleman here, his team is in the running for a couple things too. Zombinatrix is kind of a horror comedy. That's the unique thing about that. It's not a horror scary thing. And I think they're going to, ramp up production now that everything is, well, it seems like things are leveling out in the industry. Silent Sentinel was a short historical film, the 100-year anniversary of events related to the women's suffrage movement. There were people that marched, women that marched on the White House, called Silent Sentinels, to protest the prohibition about women voting. And some of these women were arrested and jailed, and Silent Sentinel tells the story of one woman's night in jail, and another woman going to deliver her a message that their efforts may finally be paying off. And it was a really nice little short film. It was timely. It was filmed in the Congressional Cemetery, which is a very old cemetery with all the proper permissions and all that. And it was filmed at night, after midnight. And it was very, very cool. I had a very small role in it, but it was such an important film and told such an important story about the struggle to get women the right to vote. I was just so glad to have been cast in it. 2 entirely different films, and they do tie both to the 48-Hour Film Project. I just realized that.
That is great. And I love how it says on the Silent Sentinel, progress has a price. And I love that. What did you play in that? What role did you play in each of those?
In Zombinatrix, I am a detective. An original version had me as the chief of police. So for some reason, I've been demoted in rank, but that, like I say, a lot of that has not been filmed yet. Silent Sentinel, I was Sam, a prison guard, and I detect this woman sneaking towards the prison to deliver a message to the prisoner. And we play a game of cat and mouse in the cemetery. And it's very cool cinematography. My flashlight just barely hits her a couple times as she's hiding near one of the mausoleums, and just cool stuff. And then, that was filmed, I believe, back in 2017. And fast forward, my film team for the current 48-hour film project filmed in the Capitol Cemetery. Totally unbeknownst to just there. I mean, everybody knows where the cool places to film are, and my team ended up there, and his crew was there back in 2017. But short films, a lot of them in this market, we're always excited when a feature film comes to town or when a television series comes to town. But there's a lot of work for actors in between gigs like that. A lot of work.
Amazing. And Paul, over to you.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm just sitting here fascinated. I love both of those pieces, and I hope that you finish filming the Zombie Matrix, and of course, anything we can do to help support would be wonderful. Can we see the Silent Sentinel? Can that be seen anywhere, or what's the story with that?
I honestly don't know. I know it was filmed and it was submitted to festivals. I don't know if it's publicly available anywhere. I think there's some reason that a filmmaker doesn't post it or publish it until the film festival run is done. But I honestly don't know, to be very candid with you. I don't know what the status of it is.
Well, that's wonderful. And thank you for sharing, the 48-hour film festival program, because I think a lot of our listeners are not necessarily filmmakers, or maybe it's people that are looking to get into the industry, and we cover so many different topics that I think it's going to be very helpful. But that's amazing that's great advice, because you kind of learn to do everything that's required of getting a film done, where I could see actors jumping behind the camera and holding, a microphone, because it's something that needs to be done in 48 hours,
I have learned so much about the technical aspects. And what you just said is very true. I have ended up running sound on some of previous teams I've been on. I just finished a feature film 3:00 in the morning this past Thursday. A New York film crew came down and we filmed at a couple of locations around the DC, Baltimore area, kind of a psychological thriller. And actually, you wouldn't have recognized me, because since April, I had grown my hair, what little bit of hair I could still grow, and I had a thick beard. And honestly, you would have thought, wait a minute, we didn't invite Charles Manson on this show. Has he escaped and gotten a hold of our Zoom link? And it was interesting. And this is a little anecdote that sometimes the actor struggles with. I had a callback the next day where I wanted to be clean shaven because of this relatively recent historical figure that I was auditioning for. The producers saw through my beard and gruff for the audition, a self-taped audition, which is pretty much the way the industry is going right now on a lot of auditions. That's part of COVID that will last long after COVID, is self-taping. And that's certainly a skill that people need to develop. The days of going around and peddling headshots and demo tapes and all of that, I suppose it exists to some degree, but self-tape auditions and Zoom auditions, or some sort of combination of that, that's the way things are now. And I was very glad I was able to shave and go to the other audition, because I'm like, I was surprised I even got the call back. I'm like, there's no way they're going to see me as this person, because I really do look ridiculous. And I had friends and family saying, oh, what is going on? You look, and this is a quote from more than one person, you look like you're homeless. Oh. And that's part of doing the role. And that's part of, another part of Kimberly's process besides script detective is she sends us out and we interact with people that we normally wouldn't maybe interact with, and observe things and report back what we've observed. And
She really is the best. She really
was
is the
always
best.
known locally here as sort of the I'm afraid to say anything anymore, but she was kind of the princess casting director, very friendly. You didn't have anything to fear going into her castle or her domain. There were, we'll just say, others that you were warned about, and you were told, don't go to this person until you are absolutely ready, and be ready to certainly be ready to be torn apart emotionally, but maybe be ready to do physical battle.
Oh my goodness. That's why she is the best. That's why I say that she is the best.
I remember auditioning before Kimberly, the very first time I ever auditioned for her. She had a major television series that she was casting, and they had very, very, very strict rules about disseminating the scripts. And most times you will get a script in advance and you study it, and to keep it from floating around and getting out before the show airs, it's watermarked normally with your name or whatever, so if it gets out. But this crew, they didn't even want the scripts to get out, so you never had advance. And you would get there, and maybe Kimberly wanted to audition you for a couple of roles, and you had to memorize them right there because they wanted you off book too. And you had to memorize them there, but she was always very patient and letting you, stay in her little green room while you memorized or whatever. But I just remember that first time getting called back from the green room into the room where the camera was. And, I didn't know who she was the first time I went there. And, you're nervous in the beginning, and maybe you're nervous all the time. And I think maybe the nervousness is good because it means you've got stake in that audition. You want that audition enough to where you're nervous about it. If you don't care about it, you would go in there and, I'm here. I decided I'm not going to stay. Bye. So I think the fact that you're still nervous after you've done it for a long time, I think that's fresh. It's like a reset button for that role. And I think it's fair to everybody. You want it, you're nervous about it. But Kimberly was always great about putting you at ease. And, if you flubbed a line or whatever, you could try it again or whatever. It was a very, very good experience.
So is that how you met? I was going to ask you, how did you meet Kimberly Skryme?
Yeah, I think I certainly heard about her in acting classes and things that I took. It's
so
like
you'd heard of her name before, Radford, right?
Oh yes, I had heard of her name from various classes I was taking. I heard of all of the local casting directors, and some have come into the market since then, and some have left the market since then. But Kimberly
stays.
She stayed, and she was consistently mentioned as like the not the wicked witch of the West. She was the good witch, the princess witch, and she was always referred to as somebody that was just a good person, and that was my experience. She put you at ease, and I was just as nervous the next time that I went before. But like I said, I think that's good because it's something you really want, and you shouldn't. You should be able to control your emotions and not break down crying, rolling on the floor at an audition because you're just too nervous. That's an extreme. But knowing it's something you want, having the stakes a little high, I think you can take that nervousness and channel it back into your character. And she was always good at putting you at ease. And if she liked your audition, but maybe you just didn't book that role, uh, 9 times out of 10, you would be invited back for a role that, fit you the next time it came up or whatever.
What I love the most about Kimberly is she makes everything fun. She's so positive. She makes things fun. And it's still fun for her, even though she's done many blockbuster movies and projects and films, and she still has fun. And that's infectious. And we want to be around people, positive people like Kimberly. So I just want to thank Kimberly for being who she is. She's a beautiful heart. Thank you so much for that, Radford. And Paul, over to you.
No, that's wonderful. I can't say any nicer things about Kimberly, so that's amazing. Thank you for covering all that, AJ. And Radford, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. To have such a storied and varied background, and then it just shows you that you can bring all this to acting. I think acting is collecting experiences, and especially what you said about being specific. In order, and that's what we learn in improv. It's not just the ketchup; it's the Heinz ketchup. There's such specific things. It's not just a car. It's a Ford Tacoma. I'm just making up these names, but there's this specific being very specific, and especially for comedy and for improv. That's kind of where I speak from. But so thank you for sharing all that. I think it's very important for people to hear that. And I'm looking forward to watching some of your work. And I hope that you come back and let us know when you have something to promote as well.
Okay.
Yes, and also I wanted to say thank you, Radford, for sending me those on-set pictures that you could of that camera, that was on some kind of car, right? And I knew
yes.
You were having a lot of fun on set there, right? So that was amazing. And so thank you for sharing that with me. I loved that. And we also have judicial consent here, I think with Dabney Coleman that was in that, and then Above the Shadows with Megan Fox. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
I can. Above the Shadows was much more recent. It was in the last 2 or 3 years. I did a voiceover for Above the Shadows. And I honestly don't remember how it came my way. I was asked to submit a demo tape of a mixed martial arts announcer calling a fight. And I honestly don't remember it, but it was something like, a roundhouse kick to the head, Suarez goes down, oh, it's a sweep, he's back up in the corner, left hook, right punch, front snap kick, he goes back to the corner. It was something like that. And then the next thing I knew, I was cast, and much to my surprise, I was told to report to a recording studio with an address about, 10, 15 miles from me. I had no idea. I've lived where I live now since 1998, and I've been by this area. I could not tell you how many times. I never knew there was a major recording studio there. There is one door, and the rest of it is up the stairs. The whole rest of the back of the building is this recording studio. And my understanding is they do a lot of post-production sound for major motion pictures. They're sent down here. Maybe the cost is more reasonable, but I met with the writer and the producer and the director of Above the Shadows, and she was in the sound booth with me, and we called the shots and whatnot. I believe they played the video for me so I could actually watch the film footage of the mixed martial artists going. I will tell you, I have not seen the completed film, to be honest with you. It's sort of a fantasy film, as I understand it. The woman lead has some sort of, she's fading from existence, and she has to unite with this mixed martial artist to save herself from fading into oblivion, but also he is down and out, and his fall from grace relates to some tabloid pictures she had taken. I haven't seen it, but I mean, this is just so weird how all this comes full circle. Probably a month, 2 months ago, somebody calls me on the phone and says, "Oh my, I just saw your name on the credits of a movie I'm watching." I said, "Well, what movie?" "Above the Shadows." I says, "Oh my gosh, remember where you've watched it at? That's on my list of things to see." So it's out there, and it's on, you know, some streaming service or something like that. But my big learn in that was there's a major recording studio near me, and you know, it was the first voiceover for a feature film that I ever did. I've done voice work before, but not for something like this. So that was kind of fun. Judicial consent, that goes back to probably 1994, maybe. It was a feature that was actually filmed in Detroit. A judge, long story short, suspected of a murder. I was a background player in that very beginning of feature films for me. Most people, you pass through the background extra work, and you still do it. I like doing background extra work. Sort of a little anecdote about background actors. If that's all you do and you just want to be a background actor, and a lot of people do, they, you know, a film comes to town, husband and wife, this is their thing. They go and they're picked to be in the background or whatever. When you're a background actor, you get a hyper extended neck because you're sticking your head up, trying to be seen in a scene and hoping the director doesn't see you. When you're a background actor, but you want to, or you're auditioning for feature roles in that production, you have a compressed neck because you're doing your background, you're sitting at the table in the restaurant, or you're at the stadium rooting on for the game or whatever, but you don't want to be seen on camera, your face, because a lot of casting directors, a lot of production will not hire somebody for a principal role if they've been seen as background. So if background's what you want, but you want to go from extra work to background, you get a compressed neck. If you want to stay in background extra work, you get a hyper extended neck because you want to be able to show everybody watching, look, there I am. But judicial consent was background, but it was kind of cool because I was a lawyer in a ballroom and I had to cross and stop right at Bonnie Bedelia, who was, you know, a big name back then. I think she still acts. It was fun. It was exciting. We got to all dress up in our finest formal wear and blah, blah, blah. They say there's no small roles, only small actors. And I believe that, and I believe that's to be true, even if you're doing background. I savor small roles because you can put so much into it. Silent Sentinel, which we talked about earlier, other small roles, sometimes they're offered to you apologetically, like, I can only fit you in this, or this is what it's not much. Well,
it's something.
You can do a lot with a one-liner.
Yeah.
You can do a lot, and that's the artistry of acting. An actor's supposed to be able to do that, and it goes back to there are no small roles, only small actors.
I love this. I love this. Thank you, Radford. I have one more question, and I'm going to send it over to Paul. What is the secret to life, Radford?
I think the secret to life is experiencing everything that life has to offer. I'm trying to think of a quick analogy. Maybe it's like a salad bar. Maybe it's like at a bar where you can't choose what beers or wines you want, so they bring you a flight of all of their samples or whatever. I think that's what life is supposed to be about. We talked earlier about labels. Society puts labels on you. Don't let yourself be labeled. Sample things, experiment with things, and I mean, not to be cliche, but do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I keep talking about the 48-hour film project, but I was thinking with all the, when we were filming a couple of weeks ago, and even the feature that I just finished, with so much strife and division in the world right now, you get on one of these film teams and you watch people on your own team, people on other teams. They're all different races, all different backgrounds, different genders, different political views, different stages of life, but they're all there for a common purpose, to do something artistic, to make a film. Whether it's a feature where you have, all the time in the world, more or less, or 48 hours, you come together and you make something where the sum is greater than the individual parts, and no strife, no bickering. I mean, creative differences, but not the bickering and the arguing we see all too often in the current edition of the world.
Yes, consider it all joy. Over to you, Paul.
No, I don't know how to follow that up. That's great. I love the buffet analogy, but I just keep kind of harping on the importance of experiencing different things to make us better rounded actors. I kind of always look at it as through the lens of acting, and the more experiences that you can collect, the better it is for you. When you have to dig into that well and come up with characters or emotions or things like that, the more experiences we have, the better. And not to mention also maybe the practical side, which is, we kind of touched on this earlier because of that 48-hour film festival, which is learning all aspects of the business. Me as a business owner, I've been everything from the janitor to the clerk to the guy that's ordering, the guy that's doing human resources, so we have to learn all aspects of the business. And I think it also makes us more compassionate, because as an actor, when you walk on the set, you know what the cameraman is going through, what wardrobe is going through, what hair and makeup are going through. And I try to, be self-reliant and take care of myself. I'll let makeup know, hey, as soon as the lights come on, I start sweating. If you want, give me some of that tissue. I can, take care of myself. And usually they're like, no, we got this. And then at the end, they're like, thank you. And they're just giving me, because, I start sweating, I'll take care of myself. So it's nice to be able to have a little compassion for other people and what they're going through, to make their job easier, and then to make the whole project come to fruition. So yeah,
Beautiful.
I haven't added anything, but yeah.
Yes, of course, you always add tremendous shares and adds, such great gems. And I'm so sorry, we're going to have to start wrapping the show up. But Radford, I have to tell you, I thank you so much. Sincerely, it's been such a great honor to talk to you, get to know you. And I want everyone to follow you. Can they follow you on Instagram and Facebook? Where can they follow you, Radford?
They can check out my Internet Movie Database page. I as a relatively old guy, I am not conversant, though I need to be, with all the social media things. And I will add, as a career FBI agent, we were indoctrinated and schooled to shy away from those things, at least while we were on the rolls, because we'll just say there were reasons that we probably shouldn't have been out there on some of those platforms as representatives of the government, where we had very sensitive jobs or whatever. And I sort of never grew out of that, although I need to. And I mean, the other part of why I'm not out on those is I'm not very good technically. If you want to do a show on something hilarious, it's just have me type for 10 minutes and have your camera on the keyboard and watch the way I type. And worse than that. But I do have an IMDb page where some of my credits are there. I'm currently updating it. Some reels or whatnot are there.
Awesome.
Just, support filmmakers. It documents things, and it makes us all think about what the world could be like.
I sincerely appreciate that so very much, Radford. You are incredible. And so we're going to do final thoughts. final thoughts. It can be a message from your heart. It can be something you want to share with the world. It can be your motto. Let's start with you, Paul. Over to you.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think it's, I always kind of go back to done is better than perfect. I think something like the 48-hour film festival forces you to do that because you have this deadline. I know rendering is horrific because if you don't get it to me on time, it's not going to be rendered in time. But that's why I think that done is better than perfect, and programs like the 48-hour film festival force us to do that because now it's not up to us. It's but I think we have to self-impose some of those things so that we don't wait to do the podcast because it's not perfect. I don't have the perfect guest. I don't have the perfect equipment. No, just do it. Get out there and create. And speaking of our podcast, I would love it if people would also, besides following Film Talk with AJ Dean, as if they'd find mine, which is Paul Vato Presents. And if you go to paulvato.com or vato.tv, you can find my podcast, but especially on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, both for Film Talk with AJ Dean and Paul Vato Presents. If you could follow them, give it a rating, especially if you've enjoyed what you've heard today. This is, so that we can continue to do these things. So thank you, AJ. Thank you for having me. And Radford, such a pleasure to meet you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And also Vato Cigars.
Let's not forget Vato Cigars as well. If you're looking for cigars, I'm your guy. Reach out and
go to the very best. Go to the very best.
Very
Vato
true.
Cigars.
Very true.
Yes, and we believe in that.
And Radford, if you need any help with your social media, don't be afraid to reach out because I know I hope that you have imdb.me/Radford or Radford Baker. Yes. But I think that for most actors, I'm kind of saying that for most actors out there, get on IMDb Pro and have that IMDb. I think mine is imdb.me/Vato, which I couldn't believe that no one else had, but it's kind of a unique made up name. But I think that's one of the most important things as an actor, that you have that vanity URL with the IMDb or your own website, because branding is so important, whether it's, vato.tv or paulvato.com. I think it's very helpful to do that. But yes, if you have any questions on any other social platforms like Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all of them, Radford, just reach out. I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Paul. And Radford, final thoughts, over to you.
The audition process is interesting, but probably a conversation for another day. I think I would just like to say, for my final thought, is everybody listening, watching, whatever, treat yourself to take an acting class. It can be anywhere. It can be a commercial acting school. It can be at your community college. Take an intro to acting class. I think you will be, if you're not at all familiar with an acting class or acting, I'm told it's a lot cheaper than psychotherapy. And you do a lot of exercises that make you look within yourself and observing other people and human behavior. I think it's a lot of the disciplines that you are taught in school rolled into one. It's very relaxing. There's no pressure on you in the intro classes to get up and do, incredible things that will result in you being covered by the National Enquirer or TMZ or anything like that. It's relaxing, it's fun, and if you're like most people, you will develop a sort of an affection for it, and maybe find yourself taking another class, and then maybe auditioning for something, and then maybe booking something. And I would just encourage everybody to just treat yourself to an introduction to acting class. It will make you a better person, a better observer of humanity, and it'll just make you feel good. It really, really will.
It really does. I love what you said. Thank you so much, Radford, and such great wisdom and such great gems that you dropped tonight. So thank you so very much. And I also want to extend, if you want any help with social media, I can also help you as well, Paul or myself. I'd be happy to help you and answer any questions to get you up on Facebook or Instagram or whatever you would like. So I want to offer that to you. And also, I loved what you gave us tonight. You brought us the thought of keeping joy in creativity. Hold on to that joy and that happiness.
Well,
And
thank you both.
Thank you so very much. And so until we meet again, I'm just going to put my fan here. How big is this fan? It covers the whole screen.
I think that's an ostrich tail. I don't know what you got there. Jeez Louise.
It was a hot show tonight, let me tell you. So I need a little bit of air conditioning.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
Such a great show and a hot show. So until we meet again, thank you so much. And until next time, Radford and Paul.
Thank you both. Be safe.